everyone. Hope you had a really good morning so far. If I do get off track, please bear with me. Might be baby brain. I'm only 3 weeks now, so please bear with me. Right, so yeah, we're going to talk about accelerated growth in terms of the fashion world, which is always an interesting topic, given how competitive the industry is. Just a little bit about myself. So I'm head of marketing, obviously 3 brands within Boohoo Group. Boohoo Group is massive. We've got 13 brands. I'm from Romania originally, and I've got over 10 years experience in marketing overall, brand and performance. Some of the highlights of my career was launching Google Chromecast, if anyone can remember that, many, many years ago. And I'm also an author, so I've put a couple of links. My book, it's about brand purpose. If you're interested, check it out. You can check me out on LinkedIn. Enough about myself. So the industry, as we know, we've been facing multiple challenges, not just this industry, but overall. One of the biggest ones being COVID, obviously, which has changed the landscape massively and changed how we're thinking and approaching things. Also, in terms of context, other things that have changed significantly in the past couple of years were around, the time we're spending on mobile. So because of COVID and during and after the pandemic, we start spending even more time on our devices. And we spend more than 70% of our time during the day on mobile, which I'm sure you guys know. But what's more interesting is that 92% of that is spent within app, which is quite a scary figure. In terms of retail, obviously, there is a very much love story between these two. And again, because of during the pandemic, not having the shops open, the app share of total UK retail increased 4 times, being more accelerated during and after the pandemic. And what's really interesting is that, yes, we've got a lot of opportunities within this industry. However, there's a lot of competition, and there's some really interesting brands coming from Asia. I don't know if many of you know Shane, it's pronounced differently by different people, but they've been kind of like our number one competitor, if you like, and they've been troubling pretty much all the brands within the fashion industry over the past couple of years. They kind of come up of nowhere, as you can see here, and they've done something right, apparently, because if you look at their growth, the revenue growth, it's pretty crazy in such a short period of time. And I just like this quote. I hope that no one from Zara is here. But basically, Zara is a legacy player which is going to be crushed by fast fashion 2.0. So people tend to call it fast fashion 2.0 because they have been capitalizing on mobile a lot and leveraging the power of mobile. And I think that massively helped them in the long term. But again, just to put things into context, there is opportunity, but there's also a lot of competition. And obviously, I can't deliver any talk on mobile apps or mobile not mentioning privacy. This has obviously really changed our lives over the past few years in terms of what Apple have been doing. Obviously, I'm pretty sure you're all aware of it. But also, the cookieless world and what Google are doing, no more IDFAs, etc., etc. So a lot of changes here, which have pushed marketeers to kind of think more laterally and try to come up with new solutions in terms of growing their apps, given the current context. And also a topic that will be touched on later, that I think a lot of you who are working on brand side and also agency side have been hearing lately. So budgets, right? Cutting marketing budgets, and where do you cut first? Whilst you're still asked to maintain performance, cut, but still deliver the same results or even higher in some cases. So as you can see here, that this is a 2021 survey, becomes very clear that there's been a massive decrease in budget spent and as marketing part of overall revenue, which is cruel reality. But again, adds to the complexity of the environment and to the complexity of, the decisions we've got to make in order to make the most of, our apps. And now a little bit about, what have we done and how have we tried to navigate all these issues that I mentioned at Dorothy Perkins. So obviously, we wanted to future-proof the brand, and we wanted to do that in the context of having budget cuts. I was having a conversation earlier with someone. Finally, I've reached out to them for a paid campaign, but then I had to kind of drop it off because there was no more budget. So we kind of had to think creatively and laterally to find other solutions. So that's kind of what I'm going to touch on in the next slides. So what's really interesting here is that we have far more installs from our own channels than from paid advertising. I'm not against paid advertising, and this is not a pitch for organic, but I'm just trying to show what we did given the context of, budget cuts, a lot of competition, not being able to really compete with the likes of Shein in terms of paid media. So we just had to get creative. So as you can see on your left-hand side, the average reliance on paid is a lot higher than ours, which we kind of do around 80% owned and 20% paid. And that's kind of a very healthy indicator that really helped us grow with the constrictions of not having enough budget or not being able to keep up with most of our competitors. Some of the things we have been doing now over the next few slides, I'm just going to show some examples of what we've been doing in order to kind of drive this 80% contribution of app growth to our app. So we've been doing Web 2 app smart banners, which is very personalized, and obviously it enabled us to kind of target on frequency and intent. And also what was very interesting is we've done a lot of A/B testing to kind of see what brings the best users, because of course we get new users, we get new app installs, but then what creates that stickiness, right? Because we want lifetime value, we want people to come back to the app and continue purchasing, not just download the app and never open it again. So I think this is a nice, easy way of utilizing your own creative teams if you've got them in-house, and just working with your own resources, so your website, your mobile website here, to kind of drive to app install. It's been an exceptionally successful tactic, and obviously we've been able to kind of track all the way to app download and then the sort of user, if it's good quality user or not. Very interestingly here, so we've got room to improve, but we can see that our banner performance is much higher than the average. And I think that's because, again, we tested a lot in terms of creative. So we had a few, we started off with four or five creatives, and then we drilled down to like the best couple. So I would say that, in order to maximize the effects of this tactic, definitely play around with creative. So yeah, it worked really well for us, and just an example there of how it looked. Now, this is a very interesting one. There was also a presentation earlier about PR and how it can drive app download. So I think it's kind of a little bit related to that. So obviously, we've got influencer marketing, which is massive, and it can be very expensive and very non-trackable, if you like. So really hard to measure and attribute. What we did, we actually worked with Branch to create deep links in order to track everything that we gave the influencers to post. And that worked really, really well, because we were able to identify influencers that work purely on a performance basis, which I know it sounds weird, because when you say influencers, you think brand, but no. There are influencers out there who actually work very well on driving sales, repeat sales, and very good quality new customers. So we identify lots of those. And and they were purely used for driving sales. And then also it enabled us obviously to amplify the brand. So the other category of influencers were obviously the ones who were creating awareness. I think one of the biggest problems we had after Boohoo Group have acquired Dorothy Perkins is that obviously stores were closed and people just thought that they ceased to exist. Working there, people would ask friends and family, "Oh, does it still exist?" It does, but it's only online. So, helping with that consideration and as a reminder that we are still around, I think that was really, really useful. And again, what we did, because we used deep linking, we could measure who clicked on it, and then where did they go, and kind of pick it up from there. And for the performance ones, as I mentioned, we could actually measure ROI, which was brilliant. So very, very interesting tactic, and a bit of an unusual one, because, when you say influencer marketing, as I say, you don't really kind of associate it with app downloads, and definitely not with ROI. But it worked very well for us. In terms of social channels, so again here, we've got branded links that, again, were deep links. And then we've got what we noticed. Again, we did a lot of playing with creative testing. And we noticed that if we do static, no one clicks on it. We got lots of impressions, but that's pretty much it. And, impression for me, it's a very fluffy metric, doesn't really help at all. But we noticed that when we're doing video, we're switching to video, that's when we actually start getting engagement, but also start getting actions. So people start downloading the app a lot more than from a static image. So there was huge appetite for video content. And what we started doing is like taking the content that influencers were creating for our own channels and using it on paid social, using deep links to kind of track that, and also using it, to do organic posts on our own. So that was again really good, and always the call to action was around downloading the app, getting to get the app, because for us it's very clear that the app. Users who have the app spend 7 times more than users who do not have the app. There's also increased engagement. I don't have to tell you the benefits about apps because I'm sure you know them, but that was kind of our key priority, to get as many people as possible to download the app. In terms of email, again, because they've been, Dorothy Perkins is a household brand, and we had historically quite a big CRM database, but we have never done anything with it in terms of syncing existing users and driving them to download the app. So if you only think we've got over 1 million subscribers, if all those people would have downloaded the app. So we kind of tapped into that, which is kind of sounds like a no-brainer, but a lot of companies do not do that. So again, low-hanging fruit that doesn't cost you the earth. So yeah, we focused on the customer journey, because the last thing you want is from an email to be taken to web, and then from web to be taken to the app store. So again, like seamless user experience and deep linking really, really helped us get people to download the app. And we've seen that with the users who have downloaded the app from emails, the retention rate is much higher. So again, it just showed the quality of the users you're getting from various different channels. So again, if you're not using it, it's relatively straightforward and easy, as long as you work with a deep linking app supplier to do that. And I strongly recommend it if you want to grow your app install base quite accelerated. And again, very interesting, more on the brand side of things, similarly to influencers, if you like. I'm a big fan of brand, and I'm a big fan of combining the two, if you like, brand and performance. So what we did here, I apologize, we also did like an out of home with QR codes, but I do not have a picture here. But what we did is we tried to maximize our offline marketing campaigns to drive up installs. And in these two examples, these are a couple of magazines where we featured. The one on the left is just an article, and the one on the right is an actual ad. So in all offline campaigns, we try to use as much as possible QR codes so we can drive people to the app. Now, we have not seen masses of people downloading the app, but I think it helps with the brand consideration, and it helps with, again, like making the most of every opportunity you have to kind of boost that KPI. What really worked is, obviously, we also paired it up with a code. I don't know if you can see in the corner side. So we were very measurable all the time in terms of, knowing who has seen it, who has purchased, and kind of bridging that gap between brand and performance in the offline world, which we all know it's usually very, very hard to do. So yeah, very interesting tactic. And since then, in all offline campaigns, we try to use QR codes as much as possible. Similarly with out of home, you'd be surprised that you say, oh, but people just walk past it, you're on the tube, you're busy, etc. But then at the same time, if you're sitting there and you just don't have much to do, you're waiting for your train or tube, people might just get bored and like the ad, how it looks like, might like the particular outfit and just, scan it, and then the moment you've got reception, or on the tube, you pretty much have got reception everywhere, and obviously on the trains you've got reception, they would download it. So it does work, and again, I would strongly recommend it. And obviously the power of SEO, I'm a big fan of SEO, not just for app growth, but just in general. SEO can save you a lot of money in paid media as long as it's done correctly and you've got a strategy and you've got patience, the most important thing. It's a very sustainable channel. You know exactly what your costs are. And it's giving you much better visibility. So again, using SEO, it's also very trackable and can help a lot with boosting those app downloads. So let's have a quick look at the results. So as I mentioned, the app users spend 7 times more than mobile users, which is pretty insane. It'll be interesting to see if anyone comes and chat to me after, if your brands or the brands you're working on see a similar impact of the app. The sessions converted twice higher than mobile web sessions, which again, fantastic results. And then the app users represent 30% of total DP users, which I know it might look small, but for us is massive because we literally started from like 5%. I think I've got a slide on that, I hope. So in terms of conversion rates, as I mentioned, so a bit of a difficult graph, but basically what it shows here is that the conversion rates are 2.2 times higher in app versus mobile web. And as I mentioned, we use deep linking for all of that. So the average value of a deep link sits at $3.24, which is again brilliant because you've got higher average order value, and you've got much better conversion rate as well than mobile web. And then in terms of, app traffic, so it just shows kind of the growth. So we were at 10% in terms of traffic. Now we are at 15%, which is great as a share of total mobile traffic, and we keep growing. As I said, we've come pretty much from nowhere with DP app. And then in terms of the average order value, own channels outperform all the other paid channels. Again, this is not a pitch for organic versus paid. It's just a means to kind of inspire people to take on board tactics that can help without spending the world. So yeah, as you can see here, the average across own channels is 54, and it's 50% higher from own channels, which is great. And then conversion rates, as I mentioned, are very strong, and we've been using branch deep links everywhere to be able to measure. And I would say if you really want to measure your performance well, make sure you use deep linking, otherwise you're always going to be questioned on what you're doing. And just quickly, because I don't have much time left, so just some quick lessons. So don't just dress up your app, accessorize it too. As I mentioned, make sure this is all about deep linking. Don't be late to the app game, so start early and ahead of competition if possible to have a mobile strategy in place, paid on organic together. And don't get your app lost in the closet. So use a variety of tactics across all channels, from email to social media to SEO, to kind of make the most of it. And make sure that, you always have a good user experience, and that's back again to deep linking. And yeah, I think that was me. If you've got questions, please come and find me after. I'd love to have a chat. Thank you.